Hi, I'm Jackie Tantillo, and this is Should Have Listened to My Mother. I've often had guests on my show who are teachers or the children of teachers or educational administrators. When my boys were in elementary school, I spent a lot of time volunteering at their K-5 school and getting to know firsthand how hard it is to be an effective teacher and the amount of work it takes to have a positive effect on these little kids. We know it's not as easy as it sounds, and parents certainly became more aware and more sympathetic to teachers' efforts during the pandemic. I take my hat off to anyone who has devoted their life to playing such a significant role in our children's lives to help them believe in themselves, that anything is possible, and that it's okay to think outside the box. As a third-generation female educator, most recently having taught 5th and 6th grades, my guest is a proud member of the Navajo Nation and member of the LGBTQ community. Her grandmother was a Navajo teacher, her mother a special education teacher, and my guest is a licensed elementary teacher and podcast addict. Tammy loves to write and create stories on her podcast called Cozy Rainbow, and that's geared for kids, of course, ages 10 and up. So I am really happy to have Tammy Haddad on Should Have Listened to My Mother. Hi, Tammy. How are you?
Hi. It's so nice to be speaking with you today.
I usually begin the conversation because we're here talking about moms. Please tell us your mom's name.
So my mom's name is Charlene.
And does she have her Native American name? Was she born with a Native American name as well?
No.
No? Okay.
No, we do have our clan names, but technically, I mean, my clan is a little different because my dad is white.
Okay. That's what America is made of, right?
Yeah.
Did your mom grow up on the reservation?
She did grow up on the reservation. So my grandparents, and the part that I've mostly been to, is in Monument Valley, Utah. People know it, maybe. I mean, probably not, but people maybe know it because there's museums there for like Western movies that were filmed once long ago. I don't really like Western movies, but that is, they have the train looking rocks and stuff. My mom didn't grow up in Monument Valley her whole life. She grew up in a different part of the reservation, but I went there once to the place where my mom was born and, went to elementary school, I think it was. And she hasn't told me too much about it because I don't know. It's just a part of her life that I guess is so far away from where she is now. The time that I did visit the town that she grew up in, dare I call it a town? It's not really, I wouldn't call it a town. It's just on the reservation. The elementary school that she went to, it was kind of like this section of 5 houses, but maybe more like trailers, I guess. And there was a school and maybe like I think some trailers where the teachers lived maybe. And then really, really small. How I'm describing it, even you might have a picture in your head of that it's bigger than what it is. And I remember the time my mom took me there, I got car sick because there's no paved roads. And she kept having to stop because the road was so bumpy. And I was like, how did you do this? And she's like, well, you just kind of get used to it, if you're doing it all the time. But of course, so I was born and raised in Las Vegas. And there's only paved roads here. There's probably some dirt roads. I have no idea where they are. Anyway, the only reason why my mom had taken me out there was because it was when I turned 18 and I was going to enroll to vote in the Navajo Nation.
Ah, great. I'm so happy you're voting. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's more like for government stuff, so that I actually have on paper that I am Native American, because you have to have documents to prove it. It's not just like Yeah,
it's a privilege to be able to vote, and I respect that she took you out there. Now, this is your maternal grandmother, right? Your mom's mom, who was also a teacher?
Yeah, she was also a teacher. So my grandma was a teacher, and I don't really know too much about her education career. What I do know, well, my grandpa was a bus driver too, funny enough. So, but I think it's probably because, there's not too many jobs on the reservation. So he was a bus driver. She was a school teacher. And my mom did not become a teacher. Like, she didn't go to college to be a teacher. I don't think that she really dreamt of being a teacher, but she actually got her degree in accounting. And she was like, you know, she met my dad and stuff at the university that they were going to. And basically because of my dad, I guess, you know, she ended up kind of working with him because his family, you know, owned a small business. And my mom, while I was in high school, decided to get a master's degree in special education because she just wanted a change in her life. So that's how she ended up becoming a teacher.
And she did not teach on, I think we talked about this, she did not teach on the reservation.
No, she did not teach on the reservation, but my grandma did.
Now, it was through the tribe that both you and your mom were able to get funds for your education.
Yeah, and probably my grandma too, although I don't know for sure about that one because I don't get to talk to her too much. You know, she lives on the reservation and stuff, so I don't see her very often. But my mom, yes, we both applied for scholarships, and that is my big lesson, I guess you could say, from my mother, where I did listen to my mother. She said, apply for scholarships. I said, bet, you got it, Mom. And I just went nuts. I applied for every Native American scholarship. And I love past Tammy for doing that for me because now I don't have any student debt. And a lot of my friends do.
Oh, you're so lucky. Very good. I'm so glad you listened to your mother.
Yes, me too. Yes, it's frustrating too because I have other siblings, right? And I also wouldn't say it's not luck because I definitely know a lot of people that could have been applying to those scholarships and they didn't. I think I have it down to a craft, right? You know, I do like writing, so I think I write a pretty strong scholarship essay or admission essay or whatever it is. And getting the stuff turned in on time is actually a skill in and of itself because that is something that my brothers have not been so great with. I'm trying to help them with that. I tell them, set a reminder in your calendar.
Oh. On their phone? You mean the phone that they're on all the time and then they don't answer?
If
someone calls you and they don't look at the alerts that they said? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that phone.
Yep, that old phone. Yeah, I tell them, I say, take out your phone right now. I worked for a scholarship office in college because that's how, you know, I was dedicated to getting my funding. I said, I don't want to have student loans and I want to live comfortably. So yeah, I was always looking for just the opportunities that were made available to me, like really trying to take advantage of those. So yeah.
Okay, so you have 3 younger siblings, all brothers?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister, and we are all 3 years apart.
I guess I should ask before the sibling question, where do you think you get this direction, this drive? Is that something you get from your mom, this stick-to-itiveness, like, I want that scholarship, I want this job, I want to study this?
Yes, I think so, because, well, it's hard to say, because, so my dad, I was an only child for 3 years. And then my next brother that was born, he's really quiet and it's really not very typical is what I've heard forever growing up that siblings get along so well. I never fought with my siblings. I've never been mad at them. That's all of us. We never fought. Never, you know, those siblings that like tussle around and stuff.
Yeah, but it must have been something that you picked up from your parents, right? I'm assuming that they set the vibe in the household.
I like to think that I set the vibe.
Oh, well, that too.
But, well, you know, this is a piece of my mom's advice, I guess you could say. So my mom, she tried to enroll me in Taekwondo or like karate when I was younger. I really didn't like it. Now I think it's because I don't like the outfits. I like to wear cute outfits, and I just didn't think that the white uniform was totally fit. But anyway, the rest of my siblings, my mom enrolled them in Taekwondo. So they actually were forced to fight each other, like when they would spar. And my mom says that's why we never fought at home. I mean, aside from me, that's why I think I just kind of, maybe it's somewhere naturally in my personality where I was just like, my little brother, though, he was so quiet. Like, he didn't talk until he was 3. So it's like, what was I going to fight with him about? And he was just so nice. So, yeah.
Was your mom home all the time when you guys were little?
No, definitely not. But this is what I think is kind of special. So my mom, she went to college, and I'll go back to your question about the drive too, because I ended up talking about my siblings. So my mom, I do get my drive from my mom. A lot of the persistence I think I get from my dad, but my mom too. I mean, if you ask my dad, he'll say it was all my mom. It's my mom. All my good qualities are from her because, so like I said, my mom grew up on the reservation, going to school on the reservation schools, and they're not so great. I think my mom was a pretty good student just because she's, smart and wanted better things for her life. Because, and I don't want to go saying like, oh, poor me, poor us, whatever. But, because my mom also isn't like that. I think my mom, all we do is just talk about the opportunities that we've been blessed with. But growing up, she lived in a house that didn't have running water. So going to school, I think she kind of saw it as her opportunity. And she has told me she had a counselor when she was in high school that basically was like, Cheryl, you need to apply for college, and helped her through all the paperwork and stuff, because my mom was really shy and just didn't know. It's so hard to explain. Like, there, in my mind, it's like there's the white world, which is, America that I grew up in. And then there is the reservation where my mom is from. And, there's a lot of great tradition and culture there, but it's not necessarily, there's not a lot, like I said, there's just not the financial opportunity to have the kind of life where like my grandparents own a house, but it's pretty small, and it's literally, I mean, there's no road to get there. It's, you just like drive through the dirt to get there. So, yeah, this high school counselor really helped my mom out and made her apply. And my mom ended up going to college. That's how she met my dad. And because I guess the story, they were both business majors. Like, my mom was in business accounting. My dad was in just business management or whatever. And my mom, they were taking a class together. My mom needed a textbook, and she couldn't get the textbook or whatever, but somebody had told her that my dad was like pretty nice, or maybe like took that class before and like would help her out and give her the textbook. Uh-huh. And so she was so shy. And if you met my mom today, she's not, nobody would describe her as shy. Nobody would, like, people are shocked to find out that my mom was like too shy at one time to ask for things. But it's just because she just was afraid to talk to people. It's like she grew up on the reservation with Navajo people, and then it's like getting out into this other world with like completely
shock.
Different. Yes, culture shock. Exactly. So yeah, she was too afraid to even knock on my dad's door to ask him for the textbook. So she had her friend do it. And I mean, yeah, so that was that. He lent her the textbook, and then they basically started dating, kept dating, whatever. My mom got this scholarship. It's called IHS, and it's still around today. It's an Indian Health Scholarship. I think that's what it's called. But it is for Native American people who want to go into the healthcare field. Basically, they'll pay for your school, but the contingency is that you have to go work on the reservation for 2 years doing whatever it is that you learned. You know what I mean? If you want to be a podiatrist, then you have to go work as a podiatrist on a reservation.
Yep, you get back
for 2 years after you graduate. Yeah. But I mean, that's actually kind of a sweet deal, because a lot of people can't find a job when they graduate. So it's like,
did she do it? Did she go back to the reservation?
Yeah. So she did. She actually ended up moving to Portland, and she was working as an accountant for a hospital there. Well, my dad, they went to school in Utah. So my dad, gosh, I think he maybe kept living in Utah. And that's when he was the one who had family in Vegas. Like his parents moved to Vegas and stuff. So they were doing this long distance thing. And my mom has told me before, she's like, I was going to leave your dad because if he didn't propose, like, we needed to do something, because I think of my mom, like, just so adventurous, like, she grew up on the reservation, goes to college, and then goes to Portland, dude. Like, Portland is like this cool place that she's like downtown, like learning all this stuff. And that's a good job as an accountant for a hospital. But yeah, she did her time, I think. And then, I mean, that sounds like she was in jail, but she served the hospital, she served the reservation there, and then moved to Las Vegas to be with my dad. So then when she was in Las Vegas, she decided, she wanted to learn how to be a pharmacy technician. So she basically did that, I guess. Like she just like went and this is how my dad puts it. Went and bothered the pharmacy person until they gave her the job.
Oh, that's great. Oh
yeah,
my
because
gosh.
she didn't have, the like she didn't go to school to be a pharmacy tech, but I guess, at the time they're like, well, we can teach you or whatever. So she was like, I want to work here. So she did that. And then she decided she was bored. And this is what my dad says about my mom too. She gets bored. So she got bored with being the accountant at the hospital. She got bored with being a pharmacy tech. So my mom was like, let me work with you. My dad's name is John. So she's like, let me work with you, John. And my dad worked with his dad, and they owned, and I guess still do technically, a video editing business. And my dad was like, Cheryl, we don't work with me. Like, this isn't a good idea. I think you should keep doing your own thing or whatever. But again, she was really persistent. And yeah, they started working together. And so that's when I was born and all my siblings. So I kind of grew up in my parents' office a little bit.
Oh my God. Like, as so many kids do.
Yeah. Well, I think I was kind of lucky. Yeah. Because then I was able to like actually be with my parents, you know what I mean? And since my dad was a business owner, I mean, small business, but like if I had an issue at school or whatever, he doesn't have a boss that he has to go and say, oh my God, my kid is sick. Can I go pick them up? Sure. No, he just goes and came and picked me up.
Who was the disciplinarian in the family?
Both of them. I think my parents, I know a lot of people don't have great parents, and I'm really lucky because both of my parents definitely held me and my siblings to a high standard. My dad is a very nagging type of personality in a love way,
a good
I
way.
guess. Yes.
In a good way.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Like growing up, my dad, like every day of my life, did you do your homework? Like, what did you learn at school today? Are all of your assignments done? He would say to me, even when I was in college, he would call me and say, is your homework done? I'd be like, Dad, I have never, ever turned in an assignment late or missed my homework, partly, because he's been nagging me. But by the time I was in college, that day that he called me, I said, Dad, I was like, have you ever known me to say like that I missed something, that I have a missing assignment? He's like, well, no. I was like, yeah. So I think you can stop asking now.
Oh my gosh. But I assume he understands the significance and importance and where a good education can get you. I'm curious about how this relationship with your mom, with both of your parents, and you're very appreciative of your relationship and how they raised you. When you're in school and you see kids that are less fortunate, a teacher can kind of pick that up early on, meeting a student.
Yeah. There are a lot of kids that I see that I'm kind of like, oh man, I don't know about their parents. I do my best though when I see those kind of kids where I think maybe their parents aren't so great. Mm-hmm. I do my best not to judge the parents because I have no idea what it's like to be a parent. So, and honestly, I think it would get kind of depressing to me if I started thinking about like, I think this kid's parents aren't so great or whatever. So I just do my best to focus on the positive. And like I said, I'm not a parent, so I feel like I have no place to judge.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely no judgment, just compassion.
Yeah.
Compassion is a huge gift because that little bit that you give that one child could change their future, right? Hopefully.
Yeah, that's true. I probably have changed the lives of many students. It's just funny because I don't really think about it like that. I mean, in a way I do.
That's a big weight on your shoulders, but I love how you say, I'm like Mr. Rogers, but it is 2022 and I'm a girl wearing black lipstick.
Yes, exactly. Because Mr. Rogers, you know what I mean? He's a great role model. Yeah. But who looks like Mr. Rogers? Not me, and a lot of kids, they want to grow up looking different. Sure. So
that's great.
Wear your black lipstick.
Wow. Has your mom ever stepped into your class and watched what you do and how you work with kids? Or was she giving you teacher advice?
No. So my mom only really was, by the time I started my teaching career, my mom had only been teaching like 2 years longer than me. And the life of a teacher is chaotic. So, to be honest with you, I went through my student teaching during the pandemic. So, I have had very, very few, like, I did my student teaching on Zoom. Very few people have actually seen me teach because there's just not enough people. Like, they're too busy trying to, like, put out fires in other parts of the school. There's a huge teacher shortage where I am. I think they're short like 800. That was like a year ago. They were short 800 teachers. I'm sure it's gone up because I left the school district too. So it's at least 801.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, when they're short 800 teachers, there's nobody that's coming to watch my lesson. In fact, they're giving me another person's class, and then I end up with 45 kids to watch. And that kind of is an answer to your question about the kids who I see that are a little bit less fortunate. It's like it kind of gets swept under the rug because it's like if I'm watching 45 kids, I mean, I think it's impossible to teach that many kids. Yeah, basically at that point, and I don't want to make, I think I'm a good teacher and stuff. There's just unfortunate circumstances surrounding how education in America is now, because at that point, it's not teaching. It's trying to get the kids, especially after all the trauma and the pandemic, the lack of social skills, they're 2 years behind. At that point, it's not teaching anymore. It's just trying to survive.
Yeah, I agree. The state of the education system in this country, that's a whole other topic. But again, I applaud you for choosing this career, because we certainly need as many fantastic teachers as we can get our hands on. You had mentioned to me that you're a proud member of the LGBTQ community.
Of course.
Can you share your story as to how you came out to your family, and was it as difficult as you may have thought it was going to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, the way that I came out to my mom, it was really more of a big deal to tell my dad, because my mom has always been like, so my mom, she kind of says that her parents, not that they didn't care about her, because of course I think they did, but they kind of had more of like a hands-off parenting mentality, if you will. But I'm within the tribe, I don't think anybody would describe it as hands-off parenting. That's like the side of me that's read like mommy blogger type of things. Okay. But her parents are just kind of like, go do whatever, they're not really like checking up on her too often. So, and, she would tell me stuff like she would go and climb these giant rocks, like with her friends, or her siblings or whatever. And that's what they would do. But now she's like, I would never let you guys do that, because hello, you're just going to like fall off the rock and like, who knows what. So I would talk to my dad like every day on the phone. My mom would call me maybe like once a week in college. So yeah, when I came out, it was to my dad, and then he was like, can we tell your mom? And I was like, sure. So we just went into the other room.
That was his whole reaction?
Not like immediately. I mean, he thought, okay, he thought I was pregnant, because he knew something was up with me. I was kind of going through, some stuff, and he was like, well, what is it? And I just felt like I had this thing like that I had been keeping from them for so long. So finally I just told him. Well, I couldn't say it. He's like, what is it? Like, are you pregnant? I was like, no, don't even worry about that. So, but that's what he's like, can we go tell your mom? And so I was like, okay. And so we went in the other room. It was really early in the morning, and she was like still sleeping. And so he's like, hey, like Tammy just came out, or, whatever. He explained it to her, and she's just like, okay, cool. And like kind of like rolled over and like went back to sleep. Yeah, it's not like
you didn't even let her wake up and get out of bed. Nothing.
Yeah, but it really, it really just wasn't that big of a deal. I don't think.
You're very fortunate.
I mean, to my dad, it was a big deal, I think, just because I had been going through stuff. But especially now, because that was when I was 16. And so it's just so not a big deal now. I don't even know. Yeah.
You're very fortunate. You're very, very fortunate. And their biggest fear, your dad, the first thing he said is, are you pregnant?
Yeah. Even then, growing up, my dad, I wasn't really afraid to come out. The reason why I didn't really want to come out is because I was like, oh my God, I don't want my dad to hassle me about like, just like if I was hanging out with a girl or something, like I didn't want him to hassle me about it. Not because I was like, oh my God, my dad. No, my dad growing up forever, both of my parents too, they're like, we love you no matter what, even if blah, blah, blah. And my advice to parents too is, don't say even if, just end it, just say, I love you no matter what, I'll never kick you out. You always have a place to live here. That's what my parents would always say.
That's pretty magical. And how simple, how simple is that? But it's not simple for everybody.
Yeah, so silly.
Very, very complicated, and just the spectrum of emotions and after effects from something like this is heart-wrenching for some.
Yeah, but that's kind of why I don't mind talking about it to people, because you always hear these stories of people coming out where it's this big dramatic thing, and it simply does not have to be like that. And I think, if more people were to hear stories like mine, then it's just going to become less and less of a big deal. It doesn't have to be some crazy life event, Good
for you.
Thanks.
And I'm so happy for you, because you are still who you are. Who cares what your preferences are? You are still who you are.
What an odd thing. I don't really, it's not really anybody's business what my sexual orientation is.
But apparently people are concerned with that, and they go off the wall. My takeaway from this was that hearing about your mom and your grandmother and the women in your life, and you're lucky your dad has played an important role in your life, is that she allowed you to be who you wanted to be. And I'm not just talking about as, coming out in life. She let you figure out your own path. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yes, definitely. Well, my mom, she just, I think really, that's why she ended up moving to Las Vegas and stuff, moved off the reservation, got her degree, because she's I wanted you to have all the opportunities. She always calls me her reincarnation, but with curly hair, because I look a lot like her, but she's got straight hair.
You do look like twins.
Yeah.
It's so great.
So she's it's my better version of myself. So I like thinking that I have her behind me, because I just try to make my parents proud with everything that I do, and my ancestors and all that. And
Yeah, that's pretty magical. Well, congratulations. And Tammy Haddad, I wish you the best of luck with your teaching and your Cozy Rainbow podcast. It is for kids, geared for kids ages 10 and up. And you do trivia questions, you do all these kind of couple of things, and it's 15 minutes long. So kids stay engaged.
Yes. Yeah. I tried to make it kind of like a classroom podcast, but there are some people that listen to it. I think a lot of moms and daughters listen to it, funny enough.
Well, that's pretty great. I hope to hear from you again in the future, keeping me posted on what you're up to and how you're handling all these wonderful, magical kids. I'm telling you, my older son just graduated from college. I have another one graduating next year, and we are still friends with all their preschool teachers and their preschool directors. It's going to happen to you, too. If you keep teaching, all these kids are going to come back to you 20 years later and say, "Hi, Ms. Haddad."
Yeah.
I'm so glad we got a chance to talk and get your perspective.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you to all my listeners, because without you, I wouldn't be doing this. So I really, really appreciate it. And everyone who's got their ear to KPPQLP in Ventura, California at 104.1 FM. And we'll be back next week with another episode of Should Have Listened to My Mother.